Good Lord, what do we got here? All right. So, not the only way you could do it by far. This is not a full restoration. We're not going to be taking the leather off and re-leathering it. This is actually leather. I thought it was metal. We're going to do the best we can do with the least amount of effort in the shortest amount of time. I know the customer. They basically brought it to me so I could make a YouTube video on it. They do not want to spend a lot of money on the restoration, but we're going to go ahead and do a couple steps for the rust removal. I'm going to use abrasive to start with, and then we'll go to Scotch-Brite wheels and Scotch-Brite belts in that order, and I'll explain why. And then we'll do a final taper and cut the edge in, do a little bit of work on the handling and try and get it done. Maybe in under 10 minutes or so. Let's see what we can do. I don't have my dust extraction in yet, you guys. I know I need it. Yes, I'm wearing flip-flops. Thank you. I will try not to get hurt. In the meantime, the dust extraction will be coming into play very soon. I just need to get a door so that then that area is sealed in the back. In the meantime, we're just vacuuming up and cleaning up on a daily basis around here. All right, here we go. So what you'll find when I start sanding this is that the surface goes like this. It's never as easy as you think it's going to be. And if it was, I'd be surprised. So we're just going to try and knock off a majority of the loose material. Try to get down to some metal. For this area here, so I've got it flat mostly. There we go. And then we'll try to get this. I'm going to do this on the convex. Sorry, on the slack belt. Whee! Big spark. It's one thing to remove the rust, but the dark part is where the actual damage goes down into the metal, and that can go deep sometimes. It can go way deeper than you think. So even though this looks like this light surface rust, what you really have is you have layers that oftentimes it's hard to tell how deep that damage goes. Okay, for that hook, I'm using the edge of the belt and it's in the slack. There we go. We'll come and put the tip on from the point from the top later. Right now, you can see how I'm moving my whole arm around. There we go. And then a little bit maybe right here. Yeah. Okay, that's the rough grind in. Let's go ahead and hit the back. So I was just going to say that as that happened. One of the important factors I always do is you'll never see my hand or my body downstream of the direction the belt goes. My fingers aren't in front and my hands, I'm holding it from the back. So if it was ever to catch or throw, I'm not in that direction. The front of this wheel is actually a really dangerous spot if it was exposed, because that can throw that up towards you. I try to avoid that as well. Just trying to get some of this out of there. At a certain point, you could almost call them beauty marks. We're just going to leave a little bit. And then the Scotch-Brite wheel and so forth, we'll take and clean that up too. Let's flip to the other side. This is where a dust mask could be really good. What I'm doing is I'm actually keeping the flat on the flat. And then the curved part, I'll come and bring that down onto the slack belt, just like I did the first side. But the two purposes of doing this are, one is to preserve the geometry of the original grind. We're not trying to regrind the whole knife. And then here's what you'll find interesting is that whoever made this knife was using some sort of a hollow wheel or something here. And I'm going to try and redo that. Yeah, this backside has been ground completely different from this side. Has been ground completely different from this side. And at the end of the day, we're not trying to make a museum piece out of it. But as an experienced regrinder, you should be prepared and be aware for there's differences from side to side that you may not have thought about being there. So this is a 240 grit wheel. Ideally, I'd probably want to go to a 120 grit. I'm moving this out of the way so I can get full action. There we go. So the wheel is really good at doing focus rust removal. What it doesn't do good at is leaving a uniform finish on a flat surface. So we're going to come back with a Scotch-Brite wheel or Scotch-Brite belt afterwards, but we'll use this wheel to get down in and really remove in the spots where we can't get in with the belt, if that makes sense to anybody. For anybody interested in math, the wheel is an 8-inch wheel in pi times the diameter. It's a little over 3, so 3 times 8 is 24. That means that it's 2 feet around, 24 inches. It's over 2 feet. And it's running at 3450 RPMs, 3450 RPMs, which means for every 1 minute, it's traveling over 6,000 feet, or approximately 60 miles an hour, more than that. Hey guys, I'm back. It's the next day and I'm resuming the work on this. This side worked in just fine, but you can tell that this was done in a different fashion. You got hollows through here and here. So what we're just trying to do, and there really is no other way you could really get this work done besides using belts, is I'm just trying to get this thing into shape where I'm happy, and it's never going to be perfect. So you got to consider the amount of time, the amount of effort, and what's the value of the item you're working on. I know some people would say it's not worth their time or effort, but if you can spend 10 or 15 minutes and we can bring this thing to a place where it's amazing. So here's a pro tip with the Scotch-Brite wheel. think of it like your knuckle. And if you were to go sideways with this thing, it's going to leave these long snail trails that really are a difference in the surface pattern, and they're very hard to get out. If you go with the direction of the scratches, like this, you'll have a much better end result that then you can blend together with Scotch-Brite or some other method later on. But especially for this side here, I don't want to, it's tempting to want to go this way. Once you put in a snail trail that goes along the edge like that, you'll really never, it's almost impossible to get it out without sanding it all the way down through it. I use my sound to listen for that difference. That tells me when I'm coming to the back edge and the front edge. It's a very thick piece of steel. We don't have to worry about overheating it. And this is work intensive for sure, but we're getting there. This is never going to come out unless you were to grind the whole blade down. So I'll focus in on that a little bit more, but I'm still going to try and go up and down and over here as well. The owner of the blade knows me very well. He knows this is going to be used for tutorial demonstration purposes. And he said just have fun with it, do your best. Which is what we're going to do. I'm actually going to put the tip in right now. And that I will cool down to keep it from, especially where it goes from thick to thin. If you can, start at the thinnest and work off of it. And then cool it down. And that'll prevent it from getting temper damage. Now we got a pretty wicked tip on there. I'm also going to do a little bit of shaping at about 45 degrees. I'm doing that to break the hard edge. There we go. And let's go to the Scotch-Brite just to show you guys how I would do that. So first I used a coarse grip belt, abrasive belt, to remove the damage and reshape it. Then I used the wheel to really get in there. Even like right here, I might try to do it just a little bit more right there. So we got that out, and let's try right there. There we go. And so you see how, even though there's just some we'll call it character marks, but we've gotten the black mostly out. There we go, right there. Okay, and that's gonna do pretty good. Then this is a coarse grip Scotch-Brite belt. You can hear the machine doesn't like this belt too much, even though we've cut away the bottom of the unit so it can run it. And I'll use the slack down here to get this contour kind of in, blend that in. I'll use this flat part under the platen for right here to try and get a more of a uniform scratch pattern to the whole thing. There you go. While we were doing all that, we actually brought up a full burr along the whole length of the thing, which means it is apexed, which means we're on to the final step already. Hopefully you can see that little burr come up. And let me get this out of the way. There we go. Just very gently. I'm not even pushing hard on that step. And then basically I'm going to do the same thing here with the 600 grit. And this is going to soften and loosen that. There we go. People, I always forget to do this. So this is a Scotch-Brite tan, or the coarse grit Scotch-Brite. The belt we were using was a P80. This is a P240 grit Scotch-Brite wheel for satin blending. This is the 600 grit wheel for deburring. And then this will be the final. This is a felt wheel, hard felt wheel, medium hard felt wheel with white compound. And I also use blue compound. The blue will leave a little bit heavier shine. It's a little more aggressive. It also leaves a little more residue. The blue also leaves a fine shine. This is incredibly sharp. And I don't have any phone book paper to test it on at the moment. We're going to go to the next step, which is just going to be putting a little bit of oil on this, and then we'll let that go after that. For the oiling of the blade, oftentimes I will use the boiled linseed oil or a tongue oil. Today we're going to use mineral oil. And the reason why is I don't want it to harden up yet. I want it to actually just soak in and give some natural ability back to the natural color and suppleness. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to put this right here, and I'm going to pour that on there, and I'm going to rub it in. And then I'm going to let that sit. There we go. I'm going to wrap it in the paper towel. And this is just a very quick upgrade, I guess you'd call it. I wouldn't even call it a restoration, but the leather's super worn. The guy that owns this is actually a leather worker, so he'll probably end up stripping this out and replacing the whole thing. But I wanted to just give an example of what you can do to handle material. There's nothing falling out. It's just bone dry. And so we're going to put it in some oil. I'm going to put some extra oil in here. And then we're just going to let that get all over this thing. Then we're just going to wrap it up in it. And then we'll let it sit. And when it gets done, I'll bring you back for the final cut test. And we'll see how it came out from before and after. Aloha, you guys. Thanks.